Mike Salvesen is the farmer that's kindly said that he'll say a few words about where he's gone with genetics.
Really quite interesting.
I have to speak into the microphone. Okay, so I'll just run through my part quickly so I can leave Mike with the bulk of the time. So just a quick update. With Deer Select, the new meat module has been quite a lot of work from the deer progeny test work that has been done at AgResearch, and so that should be up and running for this coming season. We're about to begin the work on the maternal module, so we'll have looking at fertility measures for first and second calver pregnancy success rates. There's been a bit of comment from some farmers about, do these very high growth animals have good pregnancy conception rates? And it is important that we bring this into the mix, because we know that if we focus on one trait, we can be detrimental to another. And the first season this year, the breeders have the option of recording hinds that failed to rear a fawn. So scanned pregnant, didn't rear a fawn. So we can make a start on fawn survival. And then we'll have an updated index and models once we have those in. So I didn't realise Innes was talking about the Cinta survey, but there are some lessons in here for me, and one of the ones was, why don't farmers adopt some of the things that are available? This will be too small for to read, but the key factors were financial constraints, no evidence of significant benefit, and integrating technologies into their current system. So there they are in big words. And that farmers like actual trial results, and they like to hear from real farmers, which is... So I'm going to quickly show you some real data. This is off a deer farm in the Hawke's Bay, 10 sires, and they ranged in breeding values from +10 to +28. So +10 is still well above some of the sires that are out there. So this is my story not to get a stag from your neighbour, as my neighbours just did the other day. So you can see we've got some differences at weaning, and pretty much, apart from a few animals swapped position, by the time they got out to 11th of November, they were still mostly in the same order that they were at weaning. So those genetic differences were there at the start, and they expanded. The poor little blue line, he's the backup sire. So his fawns were born later, and you can see even though he's growing at a really good rate, they never quite caught up. So in Deer Select now, the breeders have committed to supplying date of birth information so we can correct for them. He could well be a very good stag, but without being able to correct for birth date, he'd be severely discounted. So we ended up in early November with a 17 kilo difference between the best and the worst, which is a really nice match for the BVs. Females was a little bit different. We ended up with 10 kilos difference in January for the females. That may change a wee bit later. Okay, so I got the average value of the males and the average values of the females, and I've added them together. So for the stags along the bottom, the blue line is the combination of one hind and one stag, and we've got $185 difference between the stags, from the best to the worst, not including the backup stag. That was a wee bit unfair. So this is real money that can be in your back pocket. It's not just theoretical money. So how much can we afford to pay for a better stag? I did some quick numbers, and I'm sure some of you will probably find some holes in my thinking, but I tried to keep it simple. One stag to 50 hinds, 87% weaning, use him for 4 years, and he's plus 12 kilos, and so we're looking at 1,000 kilograms of carcass weight when we divide it all through, and so that's $11,000. So some of that you could be prepared to share with your stag breeder to buy that better stag, and some of it you want to put in your back pocket. So that was assuming all the stags, all the progeny were processed. If some are retained, we still end up with a significant amount of money, but we also end up with an improved hind base, so the next time we make those hinds, we get an even better result. Integrating new technologies. If we do have improved genetics, animals grow faster, they do need to eat more. And we have a little project that's available. If someone's interested in doing some of these proofs, then we could look at doing some sire studies to help you see these differences in real commercial farms. and be available if anyone wants to talk to us about it. We need to structure it so we got some good answers. But the main thing I got out of Cinta was you prefer to see and hear from real farmers, so I'll hand over to Mike. And your one should come up.
Yep, and I can't see that anyway.
No.
It's all blurred.
So it's down there and that's the
No.
green.
That's great, thanks. I was just going to go back to the last slide the previous speaker put up, saying information is power, and the data you measure is the information you get. So if you're not buying sires with BVs and all the rest of it, how do you know what you've got? Just quite simple. So thanks for that wee hint there. Yeah, so Michael Salvesen, we farm at Walkery, which is Mount Somers, between Mount Somers and Mayfield in the foothills. 1,460 hectares, which is about 1,000 hectares of hill, 400 hectares of flat and 60 hectares bits and pieces. Calving around 1,000 hinds, 450 beef cows, mostly Angus, and finishing all progeny. We also have a 200 hectare irrigated block, and between with the rest of the fat land we've got 300 R2 Wagyus, 500 R1 dairy calves, 200 R1 Wagyus, and we're finishing about 4,000 lambs this year. And we're doing all that with 2.5 labour units, and I'm the half. I'm also off farm. I'm also chairman of Federated Farmers in Mid Canterbury. So particularly at the moment with M. bovis and various other bits and pieces, there's quite a lot going on. So I'm perhaps at the moment less than half. Anyway, so that's what we do. I've also had a background in science and so on. I've been involved in agricultural research and various things from potatoes to grain to livestock all my working life. And so we've been pushing the envelope all that time, whether it was on seed rates or cropping things with potatoes and growth rates through the season and working out how a crop grows, which is I don't think anybody else has done yet. We did it 20 years ago and all that sort of stuff. So I've been involved in pushing the envelope and got involved now with EBVs in both cattle and with deer. And the short answer is, actually, guys have put an awful lot of work into it in the background, from Sharon with deer to the Angus breed, which I'm also involved with. There's an awful lot of work, measurement, scanning, whatever's gone on, and actually they produce some data, and the long short is it does work. You know, the results are repeatable, and we find that we're getting absolutely repeatable results going through. So just the green one. Oh, that one. So there we are. Yeah, a few hinds pre-fawning, so they're looking in reasonable condition. That was a year ago. And that's, yeah, just some weaners on beat. And that was actually taken the day before the rural business people had a day at the farm last July, when the following day the same paddock was covered in snow. And so, yeah, we're on heavy ground, so we have to look after the winter. I just thought I'd go through other species quickly. Generation intervals, which makes a great difference to the progress that can be made. So chickens, yeah, 25 weeks, so you've got more than 2 generations a year. They also produce, certainly in meat chickens, they produce 130 chicks a year, and so you've got that great multiplication rate if you've got the good genetics. The breeding companies go back 16 generations, and they've got them, they breed male lines, female lines, and the same in the pig industry, and they cross those at different stages and produce the chicken we've got today. The progress they've made over the last 30 years, so you start at 1, which is 70 days for a chicken to go from hatching to the table, and it's now, yeah, 1.8 times quicker, which means it's 39 days at the same weight of chicken on the table. And correspondingly, with deer and with cattle, you're back down to 1.1 or almost 1.2 over 30 years, and that's the progress. But what you can see in all those graphs is that actually using the best genetics, it's exponential growth. So if you go to, if you haven't got the top genetics, like some of the studs have got round about, some have them, they will claim them, but if you haven't got the top genetics and you use top ones, you get big jumps in performance. So at the end of the day, and Sharon's analysed it well financially, but if you haven't got top performance, and you go into those top sires, that you get that leap and those stags become even more valuable. And that's it, yeah, 1% per generation, so it just takes longer. You can measure it in different ways, but it comes to the same thing, and at the end of the day, it comes to cash. Go that way, and those are the results that we produced on farm ourselves, where stag EBVs are given definite not only performance differences, but time differences, where we've been able to put other stock on the same pasture. And so just overall, it's kilos of meat per hectare, as we've heard already. And that's all I have. Have you got any questions?
Any questions for Sharon about anything she's doing? And Mike, about anything other than Federated Farmers business?
Anything except that today.
I expect we'll have Kala BVs standing up next year, by the end of this year in Deer Select. And there'll be breeders out there that have 3 or 4 years results already.
Oh, hi, Mike. Mike, I saw a note on one of your slides, always a compromise. Can you remember what you had in mind when you wrote that comment?
Oh, but I think it's always a compromise between purely growth genetics. You've got maternal traits, whether it's milking ability, and there are different traits that are antagonistic. So you have within all these things, of course, it is a compromise. You can't just have growth, because you might find they get gammy feet or whatever it is. So it's a compromise. It always is. And I think one thing that could be helpful to a lot of deer farmers, if we could do it, and numbers may not facilitate it very easily, would be an index based on either on growth index or on a maternal index, with a combination of a weighted combination of different EBVs, but there may not be enough numbers for that in deer.